Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. You can text me at 309-451-9299, and you can always be a part of the show. We've got so much to get to today. Trump broke the internet. So he was on X. He was in an X space, is what they call it, and he was doing an interview with Elon Musk. We're going to get to some of that. Turns out he almost broke the internet. So it's called a DDoS, where, a lot of people are searching for one thing on the internet and the internet just can't keep up. So at one point, he just had millions and upon millions of people tuned into this interview, and the liberals, they were freaking out about it. You can almost hear their heads like bopping like popcorn. So we're going to get to that. But first, I do want to talk about Karine Jean-Pierre. She claims that Joe Biden supports this no tax on tips. We know that Kamala Harris stole this campaign talking point, or because for her, it's a talking point. She's not actually going to implement this policy if she were to become president. It's an empty campaign promise for her. For Donald Trump, I believe he's going to do it. Why? Because we have a record. The things he said he was going to do, he did when he was president. So Karine Jean-Pierre, like I said, she's claiming that Joe Biden supports this no tax on tips, but everybody seems to forget that this is the guy who was all for sending IRS agents after tipped workers via the Harris-supported, Harris-voted-on Inflation Reduction Act. She broke the tie with that vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually sent IRS agents after tip workers. So Kamala Harris, she said that she wants to eliminate taxation on tips, much like Donald Trump, and she hasn't had an original thought. She goes out and she says her speech. Her speech is so nice, she's got to say it twice. In Wisconsin, Michigan, all of her rallies, she's repeating the same speech. And here she is repeating Donald Trump's speeches. So she's not even repeating her own speeches. She's plagiarizing. She's cheating. And I mean, what else could you expect from Kamala? She is a selected nominee, potential nominee. We'll find out next week. Gosh, I can't believe that DNC is just right around the corner in Chicago. I've got some thoughts on that as well. But we are going to get to Kamala Harris voters and why they are why they are voting for Kamala Harris. There's this video, I'm going to play it for you. It's a Kamala fan, and she's describing the reason why she's voting for Kamala. And she says, quote, "I'm a trans man, I'm gay, and I've been pregnant. And that's the reason why I'm voting for Kamala Harris." Okay. Don't seem like those are good reasons to vote for Kamala, but we'll get to it. J.D. Vance destroying the fake news. These fake news so-called journalists, I call them journalismers, all Sunday morning. I watched this, and J.D. Vance, he's just amazing to watch when he destroys the fake news. He does it so well. So we're going to talk about that. Let's get to this Karine Jean-Pierre piece. So Biden has dedicated his entire presidency to raising taxes on the American people, and really just everyone with a pulse. Okay, he's raising taxes on people. Additionally, Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote. Don't forget who passed the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay, so this Inflation Reduction Act actually allowed the IRS to go after the service industry and those in the service industry who collect tips. Okay, so let's not forget this, okay? Joe Biden might say he supports the no tax on tips, but he hates the service industry, and that's clear in evidence. The evidence is the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a Biden administration initiative, and then also Kamala Harris broke the tie-breaking vote with her vote. So she's in support of this Inflation Reduction Act. So despite never mentioning that she wants to lower taxes on anyone, Harris has copied Trump's stance on not wanting to tax tips and claims that she's all of a sudden she's just on that bandwagon. She's like, yes, we're not going to tax tips. But notice how she does it she says that's not going, like, she's not campaigning on lowering taxes. So she's all of a sudden on this bandwagon, but all the way up until this point and beyond, she has not said that she is for lowering taxes. In fact, they come out and honestly tell you that they're about raising taxes, the pay your fair share thing. So Karine Jean-Pierre, she's pretending that the Biden-Harris administration absolutely backs this idea, even though they have probably taken more money from the American people than any other administration in American history. So let's take a listen here to Karine Jean-Pierre. This is her talking about how Biden supports not taxing tips.
Over the weekend, Vice President said she would, if she followed former President Donald Trump and saying she would support a proposal that would not tax tip wages. If similar bill made its way to the President of the United States, President Biden, would he sign that? That's something he would embrace before.
Oh, absolutely. Look, this is something that the president supports. He supports eliminating taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
Over the weekend, Vice President said she would, if she followed.
So there you have it. He supports it. So then do it. Okay, actions speak louder than words. If Sleepy Joe actually supports this idea, then he could literally sign an executive order right now to stop taxes on tips. But that's the last thing this administration wants to do, because they don't want the government to have less money. They want more money because that's how they fund their existence, by taking and stealing money from you who works in the private sector. So Biden's policies have resulted in less cash for people in the service industry, not only through taxes, but through less revenue. Okay, because people can't afford to go out to eat anymore like they used to. You're seeing it all everywhere, just restaurant after restaurant, chain after chain, close up shop. Red Lobster, right? They're closing all these locations. So not only is it the Inflation Reduction Act, where they created something called, and I quote, here's where Fox News talks about it in an article from 2023, the Service Industry Tip Compliance Agreement. This is a program, and it's a tip reporting system which the IRS and the service industry companies cooperate with each other. So this is what the Inflation Reduction Act was. It was going after people in the service industries and finding how much and figuring out how much tipped workers actually made, so they could collect on that and tax that. In other words, this administration hired 80,000 IRS agents to go after the little guy. And they want to spend your hard-earned money overseas. That's what they need the money for, because we're sending $200 billion plus. I don't know what the figure is now, but it's ridiculous. It's pretty close to that. The last time I checked, it's probably way more than that now. But they're sending your hard-earned money overseas. And is that really the compassionate thing to do? Taxing on one's income is probably the most tyrannical thing that governments do. And it's one of the most tyrannical things that this country condones. And the left believes that your hard-earned cash should not be yours to keep, but rather the fruits of your labor should be sent overseas to spent on foreign wars. And it's quite sad. It's quite sad. The left wants to steal your money, and they think that the fruits of your labor should be spent on foreign wars. Kamala Harris was the vote, let's remind you, was the vote responsible for dramatically increasing prices by over 20%. Okay, so after the Inflation Reduction Act went into effect, we're looking at a 20% spike in prices. And she's pretending that she wants the average American to keep more of their income now. She's out there saying, "Oh, no taxes on tips." You got to be kidding me. That is the most disingenuous lie I've ever heard. And she's copying, to top it all off, the cherry on top of the cake, she's copying Donald Trump and his campaign promises. She didn't even come up with something original. So Kamala Harris, like I said, she's turned your dollar into 83 cents. Think about that. After the Inflation Reduction Act, which she voted for and was the tie-breaking vote, she turned your dollar into 83 cents with that vote. Now, that wasn't Trump's vote. No. It was her vote, and it's pathetic for her to get out there now and pretend like she's going to fix this mess that she created. And it just enrages me. All right, we're going to chat more about Kamala Harris fans. Why are they voting for her? Okay, so clearly it's not because she, has great votes in the Senate, being the tie-breaking vote for the Senate. Clearly, it's not because she lowers prices. She was instrumental in raising prices by over 20%. And now she's pretending to be all for the average American, keeping more of their income. She's not. Why? Because they're not in the business of government making less money. So we're going to talk about why Kamala fans are actually voting for her. And then don't forget, folks, we are going to talk about J.D. Vance destroying the fake news, the so-called journalists. I call them journalismers. They're not a respectable group of people. And we're going to get to that too in the show, because I've read some headlines and I don't know, the lack of respect. No self-respecting person would dare write what some of these media outlets are writing. It's quite incredible. I mean, the lengths at which the media will go to shill and to promote the Harris campaign is quite shocking. So I've got a few headlines for you to read from Politico, Atlantic, and the Associated Press. These 3 headlines. If you don't think that the media is just promoting Kamala Harris, that they're propaganda pieces for the Democrat Party and that they're Democrat operatives, these headlines are going to change that for you. All right, I'll be back next. This is Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Find me on YouTube, Conservative Cat Show. Just type it in your search bar. The mainstream media convinced people that they must take the shot, and everyone listened. The mainstream media is still doing the same with this election. Weird how everyone is drinking the Kool-Aid. Yeah, I mean, some of the things that these people have said, I mean, no self-respecting individual, anybody who has dignity would not write this. And I'm going to read a little bit from Atlantic, which is just hilarious. You guys are really going to like this. Okay, here's straight up from the Atlantic. I'm going to share this with you. I'm just going to copy and paste right from the Atlantic. Okay, the governor of Minnesota and possible future vice president. Hot dish recipe is a lot. It involves, among other things, whole milk, half and half, 2 types of meat, 3 cups of cheese, specifically Kraft, nearly a stick of butter, and a package of tater tots. It's gluttonous, deeply Midwestern, and I'm sure delicious. This is what Atlantic is saying about the governor of Minnesota. Whatever happened to the media being adversarial with government? I mean, this is no self-respecting person would compare the Minnesota governor to a piping hot dish of, tater tots, cheesy tater tot casserole. Okay. Because what? So clearly these people have no shame. And it gets worse from there. Politico, they remixed an old John Fetterman post while the media was praising him and while the press was praising him before he started to stand for Israel and started saying nice things about Israel. So they remixed an old post or an old article about John Fetterman. Dressing like a slob is not actually dressing like a slob if you're a Democrat. It's chic. It's cool. So from Politico, and I'm going to put this up here too. Here we go. I'm just copy pasting from Politico now. You guys are going to love this. Still talking about the Minnesota governor. With his flannel-lined LL Bean barn coats, scuffed work boots, woodsy camo caps. Walz is one of few male politicians who look normal in kind of unpretentious clothing. Many voters prefer to wear themselves. Yes. So he might run for president or he might clean your garage. It's the weekend. Anything can happen. So there you go. I mean, that's no self-respecting journalist would shill for somebody like this in this way and just be in the tank and be so supportive of a government official to the point where you're making him into some kind of folksy, woodsy, camo cap wearing hero. The Associated Press, they also wrote an article about why it's not necessary for Kamala Harris to talk to the press. They say that, things have changed. She doesn't need to talk to the press. Yeah, so they did an entire article. They could have just said nothing, but they did an entire article defending Kamala Harris for not doing a sit-down interview with the press and not answering questions. So, like I said, they could have just ignored the fact that Kamala Harris is ignoring the press. And she is ignoring the press, make no mistake. She ignored the press when they asked about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, and she ignored Joe Biden's cognitive decline. So the press ignored that as well, right? And for what little questions they asked of Kamala Harris about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, she refused to answer honestly. But the AP, like I said, they should have shilled for her. They could have shilled for her, but they just did this very embarrassing thing where they defended the vice president of the United States for not even taking softball questions from the media. She won't even take softballs from the media. So the AP went out there and started running interference and started defending her. So those three headlines, AP, Politico, Atlantic, it pretty much, the conversations go like this. The Biden-Harris team, the headquarters, they send out a press release that they wrote. And then the media says, yeah, sure, we will print it as is. And because we have no self-respect. That's what the media does. So we are going to chat about why voters are voting for Kamala Harris, because I've got a video of this individual. It's kind of funny, where she's asked, hey, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? Rather than discussing policy or the lack thereof, they talked about their identity. And how the fact that they've had abortions and how they want to continue to have abortions. So this is truly an incredible clip. You guys are going to love it. A little bit later, we are going to discuss J.D. Vance and how there was just a masterclass. It was a masterclass on Sunday, how to handle the hostile media. J.D. Vance was very good at destroying Dana Bash and John Carl on live TV. So I'll be right back. This is Conservative Cat. Subscribe today. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, on the stream, we talked about how the journalismers, these journalists, they have no self-respect. They have no dignity. And coming up in just a little bit, I'm going to unpack this a little bit more. The Atlantic, I just couldn't believe it when I read it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way somebody sat down and just started writing this, and this person has self-respect. This person has dignity. The conversations, this is how it goes with all of these mainstream media outlets. Kamala HQ, the Kamala Harris team campaign, they send out a press release, and it's this beautiful, glorified press release. And they say, hey, mind putting your name on this glorified press release we wrote for you? And then the media says, sure, we've got no self-respect. We're going to do that. We're going to put our name on the press release. So here it is from The Atlantic. And I'm just going to read these sentences for you, and just keep in mind the goal, or the really what media is all about in journalism should be, and Edward R. Murrow said it best, the government of wolves people who are sheep will beget a government of wolves. And you can't be a sheep. You got to be confrontational. You have to be adversarial with government if you're in the media. That's just the way it goes. That's the way that's the way it's designed. That's why journalists, and being in journalism, back in Edward R. Murrow days, was such a respectable profession, because you are putting yourself in harm's way. You're going to be adversarial with government. You're going to be in confrontation with government, people of power. And, that's admirable. It's very admirable that somebody would be willing to do that. So here we go. From The Atlantic. This is just straight up out of The Atlantic. Okay. Quote, the governor of Minnesota and possible future vice president's hot dish recipe is a lot. It involves, among other things, whole milk, half and half, 2 types of meat, 3 cups of cheese, specifically Kraft, nearly a stick of butter, and a full package of tater tots. It's gluttonous, deeply Midwestern, and I'm sure delicious. They're comparing, in The Atlantic, they're comparing the Minnesota governor, Tim Walz, to a piping hot dish of tater tot casserole, and they said, "Oh, he's gluttonous. He's deeply Midwestern, and Western, and I'm sure he's delicious." What? Like, who wrote that? Oh gosh. So we're gonna get to that here in just a little bit, but I do want to get to Kamala Harris fans, because clearly they're not supporting her for economic reasons. They don't want a good economy. Why are they voting for her? Why would anybody vote for Kamala Harris? Well, the answer really is, it's simple. The only people excited to vote for Kamala Harris are trans men who are gay and also pregnant and also have had an abortion and don't want to lose their rights. Unclear how those are rights, being gay, having an abortion, being pregnant. I'm not sure how those are rights, and I'm also unsure how one person can be one thing and then also be the antithesis of that thing. So, how can you be gay and pregnant, and how can you be trans man and also pregnant? I don't know, but here we are in 2024, where insanity is more common than sanity. The fear-mongering of trans men not being able to get abortions has been going on for quite some time. Kamala Harris is out there saying that Donald Trump, if he gets in, he's going to come after the LGBTQ community. How do we know that that's not true? That's right. Donald Trump was president from 2016 to 2020, and people were still, gay and getting married. Right. And people were still transing themselves, adults, and it's too far to chop off the healthy genitals of young children. That's way too far, and some states have banned that, but it's a state-by-state issue. And Donald Trump didn't, with the sweep of a pen, ban gay marriage. Okay, we know this because we lived it. Anyway, so this trans man is out there, and I'm going to play the video. This makes no sense, because the amount of people claiming to be trans men or to be a trans man and also seeking an abortion is probably not even a percentage of the population. But the Harris campaign would be absolutely nothing without these people, without this voting base. I'm convinced these are the only people voting for Kamala Harris. I don't think anybody else is voting for her except trans men who happen to get or who are pregnant and then get an abortion and are also gay. So let's take a listen here. You guys are going to really like this. Here we go.
Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
I don't want to lose my rights. I'm a trans man and I'm gay and I have been pregnant and I've had an abortion before, and I don't want to lose that. I'm afraid of not being able to be myself anymore because from what I've heard, Trump's America doesn't want me to look like this. So that's why I'm here today, and that's why I'm voting blue.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor, and it would have been dangerous for me to properly, like, it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with, like, personal reasons and everything. I also, like, I'm very, alternative, and I feel like if Trump were to win, I wouldn't be able to, like, express myself through my looks and everything, and wouldn't be able to have the piercings or the dyed hair or the tattoos that I want. I would be able to be myself, and my dad's very pro-Trump, and I'm just very
Pro-Kamala.
pro-Kamala. Yeah, I don't, it's
Does
just,
that cause a divide at all?
yeah, it definitely does. He thinks that Kamala's going to ruin the country, but I think that Trump would do worse, like, a lot. Like, Kamala is going to be good for the country.
Well, they're called Tenet Media. They went around asking voters, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? And of course, rather than discussing policy or the lack thereof, here's a couple of trans men discussing their fears of losing their so-called rights that are not in any founding document. Like I said, the right to be pregnant, gay, trans, that I pointed the founding document. Pointed out for me that those are rights. First of all. Second of all, nobody's going after, and Donald Trump certainly is not going after your so-called right. Like I said, it's not a right, an abortion. He's not going after your ability to get an abortion, okay, legally. He said it's going to be up to the states, like the Supreme Court ruled. So, like I said, this person is voting for Harris because she's a woman who wants to get abortions. This Harris rally attendee said, I don't want to lose my rights. Like, I'm a trans man, I'm gay, and I've been pregnant and I've had an abortion before, and I don't want to lose that. So this is a woman who wants to get abortions. Okay. That's fine. Go move here to Illinois. You get all the abortions you want. Move to Minnesota where you get to have an abortion at 9 months. Okay. Or travel, even if you're in Texas, right? You can travel to Illinois and get an abortion on my dime, the taxpayer's dime. Okay. So there's options for you. There's plenty of options for you to go get your abortion like you want. And I think it's interesting. She has to point out that she's a trans man, that she's gay, because this is all victim points. That's what I call them. They're victim points. She'd lose nearly all of her victim points if she just said, hey, I'm a woman who wants to continue to get abortions. She needs the extra victim points, and she needs the extra labels for flavor. Right? She's like, oh, I'm trans man, I'm gay. She's going to put every label out there. She can't just come out and say she's a woman who wants abortions because she loses that the victim points. So she claimed to be gay. And like I said, she can't claim to be gay and trans man. I mean, at that point, I think she's just straight, right? So you're just a straight woman. If you're a trans man, you identify as a man, and then you're gay, I'm pretty sure she's straight. So just come out and say you're a straight woman who wants abortions. I mean, why the extra labels? But anyway, she further claimed that America does not want her to look like that. And it's probably safe to say that she doesn't even want to look like that. For those of you who are not on the stream, these two Kamala Harris fans, they're heavily pierced, dressed in black, and I'm not trying to judge, but I mean, respectfully, I don't know why you're trying to make yourself look less appealing. I really don't. I'm pretty sure that you don't even really want to look like that. Clearly, I mean, she starts crying. She's on the verge of tears here in this video when she starts discussing her piercings and how she wants to keep them. If you really wanted to keep them, I don't think you'd be on the verge of tears talking about it. Okay. So This other voter claimed that she was an abortion, or she was a minor when she received her abortion. And these two girls, like I said, they've got issues, and that's an understatement. Most people go their entire life without having an abortion, and these people want it to be a right, and they want to have more in the future. Okay, that's deranged. Okay, and to vote solely on that is completely delusional. So not only is that deranged that you want to just continue having abortions, like most women would do everything in their power to avoid that situation. Right? I mean, that's got to be a very tough situation to go through. And I would imagine most women avoid ever trying to, or ever being in a position where they have to receive an abortion or where they want to receive an abortion. So like I said, and voting on that solely is delusional. It's pretty hilarious how they describe their like aesthetic here on the stream. You can see it. Their whole aesthetic is like black, heavily pierced. I think this woman's got piercings in her cheek. She's got this huge piercing across her nose, her eyebrow, her forehead, just everywhere. Her cheeks are pierced. Just the entire face. And I think it's funny that they describe this as an alternative rather than mentally unstable, but she wishes for her right to express herself and be herself. If you want to pierce up your body, Donald Trump is not going to take that away from you. How do we know this? From 2016 all the way through 2020, nobody came after anybody's piercings. Okay, nobody came after your gothic aesthetic, and like I said, I'm not sure how any of this is good for the country. And these delusional voters, and it's kind of selfish if you think about it. They clearly live in their parents' basement, and they don't have any ounce of responsibility. The price of groceries, it doesn't affect them, so they're not worried about the economy. They're worried about their aesthetic. They're worried about the way they appear and how that. It's very selfish. When I go and I vote, I think about, hey, is this going to be good for the country? Is my decision here going to be good for the country? They cast their ballots in the best interest of themselves, or really just in the best interest of their ambiguous feelings that they can't even really describe without tearing up. Okay, so I mean, you know, I try to cast my ballots in the best interest of the country, and they would rather cast their ballot based on some sort of feeling that they have that they really just can't even describe. And like I said, the left, they'll say that you're weird. Come on. You think that the left's weird? Or the right is weird? Look at this. Look at this. All right, I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back talking about how J.D. Vance destroyed the media on Sunday. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. We've got so much to get through today. So much to get through. Real quick, I do want to chat about Stateville Prison. Now, this is an Illinois story. You can find it on cities929.com via the Center Square. So, Illinois prison officials are saying that people have to be transferred out of Stateville Correctional Center. And in the order, Judge Andrea Wood, who is a Barack Obama appointed federal judge, she wrote in her order that the inmates have to be moved and transferred out of the facility, and that there's risk to them because of how there is not adequate living conditions. So, quote, irreparable harm from falling concrete attributed to the deteriorated masonry walls, ceilings, steel beams, and window sills at Stateville. There's lack of adequate remedy. So this judge says that, hey, by September 30th, you have to get all these prisoners out of Stateville. It's kind of convenient. Now, there's a lot that goes into this, and I'm going to chat a little bit about these prison closure plans. So in Lincoln, which is actually where I live, there's a Logan Correctional Center that they want to close up as well. We're going to lose about 500 jobs in the area here, which is very frightening considering this area here already lost the Lincoln College. There is just boarded up windows in the downtown area. Businesses have left, and I see it right before my very eyes, right? This is in my community, and it's probably in yours as well, being from Central Illinois. But anyway, they're going to close up Logan Correctional, and they want to close up Stateville. And then the plan here is to build 2 brand new facilities right there where Statesville is at in Crest Hill. And these plans kind of are, and what people have said, there's not really plans at all. These are just kind of proposals. State Senator Don DeWitt, he questions whether the plans to build the new prisons will even come to fruition, considering the state's prison vacancies. Now, I reported on this, back in January, how the prisons are emptying. There is about a 30% occupancy out of all of state prisons, or out of all of the prisons in the state. That's what the number is. I've heard that number several times, where they're about 30% full. So there is a lack, and I've talked with people who run the facilities around the state, and they say that there's not a whole lot of people. They've closed off, at least in Cook County, divisions, wings of the prison, complete areas. There's even a study being conducted in Cook County right now to try to figure out how to utilize these unnecessary areas and to repurpose them. So I don't know. And I like how State Senator Don DeWitt describes it here. He says it's convenient for the Pritzker administration and the Department of Corrections that the judge ruled to transfer these Stateville prisoners. Quote, it's either just dumb luck or extremely convenient that the judge has taken the burden off the governor's back. What burden? Well, the burden to answer to the Illinoisans, hey, people have been asking, when are you going to close these prisons down? Where is the COGFA recommendation? There is no COGFA recommendation on these plans, because there was some shady stuff that went down where COGFA meeting got moved to Springfield. This hearing, COGFA being the Commission on Government Accountability. This is a group of legislators, and they were supposed to vote on the governor's plans to close these 2 prisons, build 2 new ones in Stateville. Or near the Stateville location. They were supposed to vote on this, right? But at the last minute, they changed the hearing date, or the hearing location, to Springfield. And there's a lot of COGFA members who weren't in attendance because they're residents of the Chicago area. So they didn't get to vote on it one way or another, saying, hey, this plan, there has been very little public support for this. There have been, I know here in Lincoln, when they held hearings to hear from the public about the closures of these prisons and the alleged building out of these 2 new prisons in Stateville, there's been a lot of pushback, obviously, from the public, because you're destroying jobs. You're quite literally taking jobs away from communities, and you're going to cause billions or millions in economic damage. So I don't know what the estimates are for this area, but you're going to cause a lot of people to have to leave their jobs in the corrections with the Department of Corrections, either to move somewhere else and get a totally different job completely, or they're going to have to significantly increase their commute times, to work at a prison that's not in these areas. So yeah, very interesting that this is happening prior to the election. That's all I'm going to say right now. But I think that it seems speedy. There's something fishy going on where they're speeding this through, where they want to transfer these prisoners out. And it's kind of convenient that the administration and the Department of Corrections don't have to answer to the public. They didn't show up to the COGVA hearing. The Department of Corrections didn't, or neither did the governor's office, the final one, to talk about their proposals and their closure plans. So I just think that they're hiding. And it's very interesting that this ruling came out. I do have to take a quick break. But Stateville prisoners, and another piece of this, which is really interesting, is perhaps the prisoners aren't going to be transferred, and rather they'll just be let go. So they won't have to finish out their sentences. They'll go before a parole board, and then they'll be released. So it's going to be really interesting to figure out how many of these prisoners are actually relocated from that Stateville prison. And I'm not saying that the Stateville prison is not decrepit. I'm not saying that. I haven't looked at that prison or gone to that prison. I've seen the outside. Doesn't look that great. So I'm not saying that that's not the case here. What I am saying is that the timing seems fishy and odd, and it seems hastened to get these Stateville prisoners out ahead of an election. So I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We're going to talk about J.D. Vance and how he completely blasted the fake news media on Sunday. Hello. Good morning. If you guys are watching, go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to be back with J.D. Vance clips. He was on Sunday on all the talking shows, and this was a master class. So here we have it. We've got this article here. I want to continue talking for you guys on the stream here. You should be able to see this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can read with me. Now, this case was originally filed in 2013. The original plaintiff, Lester Dobby, was an inmate in the custody of the Illinois Department of Corrections in Stateville, and he complained of unsanitary conditions, unbearable fluorescent lighting, preventing inmates from getting proper sleep, and unsanitary living conditions. Like I said, not questioning that at all. And, we really need to ask the question, hey, why did it get this bad? How did it get this bad? The state should be maintaining the prisons, okay, to the point where they're at least sanitary and inmates can get some sleep. Okay, so they should be maintaining it. So Judge Andrea Wood wrote in her order that you have to move the inmates right away. And the end date, or the due date, I guess, to transfer all the prisoners out is going to be September 30th. Okay, so Illinois prison officials say they must transfer most people incarcerated. Most people incarcerated. So transfer most people. So what about, that's most, not all. Likely what that means is that there's going to be some prisoners who are just released. They're going to go before the parole board, and they're just going to be released from the state's prison or Stateville. And they have to do this by September 30th, according to an order from a federal judge. So Stateville, like I said, unsafe, decrepit, inhumane facility, and it has been for a long time. That's the executive director from the John Howard Association, who's an independent association. Not questioning that at all. I have not been to the prison. Now, State Senator Don DeWitt, who I spoke with yesterday, did go to the prison and said that there are some areas that are completely habitable in the prison, and but there are some areas that he would say might be inhumane. He goes, I don't know if I'd use that word, but it might not be suitable for somebody to live in certain areas of this prison. Now, like I said, extremely convenient. And this is what State Senator Don DeWitt said. Hey, this is extremely convenient. The judge has taken the burden off the governor's back to answer to the people. Hey, this is why we're closing or this is how we're going to close the prisons. This is, the design, the build out. We're actually going to build these new facilities where the Stateville location is at. Because they're closing down the Logan facility and they're not rebuilding it here in Lincoln. They're going to be rebuilding it in Stateville, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If you're closing down the prison here, and they say it's because there's more access to programs up in Chicago, which is just an untruth. I know that there's plenty of programs, churches who help the women at the Logan County Correctional Facility here. That's just an untruth, and it's not really a good reason why. Why not give Lincoln some funding for the programs as well? Why does Cook County get to have all these nice programs then? Give the government or give the prison money to implement programs like this. You give it to Cook County, right? So, but there's even questions if they're going to build these new prisons. The prisons are empty. Okay, the state's prisons are approximately only 30% occupied at this point. So are they even going to build a prison? I don't know if they're even going to build it. They're planning on using $900 million. I don't know how you come up with that figure without any kind of designs or building proposals, but they came up with that number. The Illinois taxpayers could pay that for these facilities. And like I said, it's just fishy all the way around. Convenient for the governor that this judge ruled this way, so he doesn't have to answer to the the Illinoisans about why and what this proposal is really all about. Hi there, good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Gat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. While you had eggs and bacon during your Sunday morning breakfast, J.D. Vance ate Dana Bash and John Carl's lunch, I'm telling you. So he was handling this hostile media very well on Sunday, and I want to play this for you because I think it's important. He stays on point for literally every issue. Now, I have had my speculation and concern about a J.D. Vance vice presidency. I didn't know if he was going to be establishment type pick. I had some concern, especially after the convention. His speech wasn't all that great. And I really wanted Vivek Ramaswamy, okay, because he was anti-establishment and anti-rhino. I was worried that J.D. Vance was a rhino. But he has he's changed my mind. Tim Walz has this weird belief that the government should take your kids away if you don't have a specific political opinion. And J.D. Vance goes after Tim Walz for this position. So we're going to be back talking about that. This is Conservative Cat. Stay tuned. I want to get to some of your comments here. I see a big rainstorm. Yeah, it looks like there might be some rain coming in. Good morning, all the way from Western Pennsylvania, not far from Butler. Trump is planning another rally in Butler. I hope our state and feds do a better job protecting Trump. They can't do any worse. We actually have a story about that today, about the Secret Service, which a lot of people haven't heard yet. The Secret Service agent, she actually broke into a salon before a Kamala Harris event and then, used the bathroom, which was really weird. It's weird. It's also illegal. The Secret Service agent breaks into a bathroom or like a salon and then claims that she had to use the restroom, and she covered up the security footage with a piece of tape so she could break into the salon. This is a Secret Service agent. So it's unclear where the Secret Service found the nerve to be as abysmal as they are. The DEI hires, who quite literally, I mean, I don't know if it's negligence. I don't think it's negligence. It's definitely deliberate at this point. At some point, you have to say, okay, this was planned. This was plan A, was to eliminate Donald Trump. Plan B is Kamala Harris. Plan C is to stale the election, right? So, like I said, this is a really interesting story where the Secret Service agent, and like I said, they have like no right to be as bad as they are. DEI has really exaggerated that issue. Where they have become just abysmal, like with everything, okay, in society, any industry, if there's DEI involved, it's abysmal. So if you look at all the legal documents and history, in the history of legal papers, nowhere does it say agents can disregard private property rights and use restrooms conveniently, and nowhere does it say that they're exempt from prosecution the moment they break the law. Okay, so this Secret Service agent broke the law, and that's what we have here. Secret Service agents broke into a Massachusetts salon picking a lock, and we know they know it was wrong because they covered up the security camera with duct tape of the salon. So the salon has a security camera, and then the Secret Service agents covered it up with duct tape. Let's look at this. Hold on, let me show you this. I'm going to share this. This is quite incredible. Okay, here we go. Here they are. This is the salon I'm talking about here. And they pick the lock. They come back. And they're picking the lock. And then she's going to cover up this with duct tape. Watch. Okay. Here's the front room. They're in here. They're in the salon. They're Secret Service agents. Secret Service broke into a Massachusetts hair salon, during a Kamala event. They covered the cameras with duct tape, broke inside to use their bathroom, let attendees use the bathroom, and took candies off the desk. They reportedly left the store unlocked and left the tape on for the rest of the day. Here it is. Let's look at this. Here we go. Here's the Secret Service agent. Look at this. DEI hire. I mean, come on. It doesn't get more crazy than that, right? I mean, it's absurd. It's really absurd and weird. So yeah, like I said, I hope that the Secret Service does a better job for Trump at that rally. I'm planning on going to another rally. Maybe I'll see you up there.
for shoddiness.
There are safeguards in place with one exception. If somebody else is delivering your ballot to the election authority, they have to fill out the affidavit. They don't have to do that if the post office is delivering it to us or if they're utilizing a drop box. So there is a little bit of a loophole there. Even then, Ackerman said the signature on the mail-in ballot must match the voter's signature on file. I'm Greg Bishop. News on the air, on the web, on your app, and on Alexa. I'm Tom Davis. Here's the Bloomington Normal Forecast on Cities 92.9.
Patchy fog to start the day, then mostly sunny with a high near 80. Clear skies tonight, low down to 61. Partly sunny for Wednesday with a high of 82. On Thursday, some showers move back in. They'll actually start on Wednesday night with Thursday's high 82.
The weather's being brought to you by Dr. Justin Hillman of True Health Chiropractic and Massage on East Washington Street. If you're in pain, contact True Health today. From the Johns in Lexington studio, don't let your insurance company void your car's warranty by using junkyard or imitation parts. After an accident, bring your car in to Johns in Lexington. Cities 92.9. Your hometown conservative talk show focused on bringing you exclusive stories across the nation. Chico's for Main Street.
Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Conservative Cat Show. Just type it in your search bar. We are going to talk about Donald Trump making a triumphant return to X. Yes, he had some fiery posts, and I want to talk about a few of them. He broke the internet yesterday because there was a DDoS breach. It's where you go and you research something on the internet and there's tons of people. So millions of people were trying to tune into this interview that Elon Musk and Donald Trump had yesterday. So that broke the internet, and we're going to talk about Donald Trump making a triumphant return to X with these fire posts. And then we are also going to talk about a Secret Service agent who broke into a Massachusetts salon before a Kamala Harris event and then just does something very shocking. They broke into this hair salon during the Kamala event, and they covered the cameras with duct tape and broke inside to use the bathrooms. They let other attendees use the bathroom at this hair salon, and then they took candies off of the desk that were there at that hair salon. So they reportedly left the store unlocked, and they left the tape on the security camera for the rest of the day. So I guess Secret Service apologized for this. According to the Post Millennial, Alicia Powers, the owner of the salon, told and recounted how the Secret Service agents entered her building without notice, and they picked the lock on the front door and then taped the security cameras. This is Secret Service. Secret Service agents. This is incredible. Not a whole lot of people are talking about this, but I'm sorry, I don't know in the history of legal papers. I'm looking for all the legal documents here, and I can't find any that say that it's okay for Secret Service agents to disregard private property and use bathrooms and restrooms conveniently. And I don't think that they're exempt from prosecution for that sort of thing, and that they're exempt from prosecution the moment they break the law. All right, I do want to get to J.D. Vance, like I was telling you before the break. J.D. Vance masterclass on how to handle the hostile media. This was on Sunday. I've got to play these for you because he's so on point for every single issue, J.D. Vance, including the one where Tim Walz is weird. And he has this really weird belief that the government should be able to take away somebody's kids over political opinions. One specific political opinion, that is, it's, hey, if I don't want to trans my kids, then the government should be able to come in and take your kids away from you if you don't agree that transing your kids is the best thing. So here it is, J.D. Vance.
Walz has supported
taking children from their parents if the parents don't consent to gender reassignment. That is crazy. And by the way, Tim Walz gets on his high horse about mind your own damn business. One way of minding your own damn business, John, is to not try to take my children away from me if I have different moral views than you.
The state to kidnap
They have
children to change their
how would
sexual
you,
identity.
what I just explained to you, I would describe as kidnapping, John. He has absolutely done this stuff. It's not crazy, John. Come on.
It's not what
You
he's
should
done.
not. You should not be able to take people's children away from them.
And that's
If you
not what he's proposed.
If you disagree with decisions about gender reassignment, yes, he has proposed that, John. He absolutely has. What President Trump said, John, is that.
There you go. So there's JD Vance. He was on with John Carl, okay, and he just completely destroyed him. Vance also wrecked Dana Bash on Walz's stolen valor scandal, okay. So he cited guests who were on CNN that contradicted the Democrat talking points Dana was trying to push here. And once she realized she lost, she was like, oh man, I've got to move on to a different topic. So here we go. Let's take a listen to JD Vance destroying Dana Bash on CNN over Walz's stolen valor scandal.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq. And it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004. So, or excuse me, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use, because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said. So again, I'm not criticizing the service. I'm criticizing the dishonesty spoken in favor and for the purpose of political benefit. And I think that the most important thing here, Dana, is it goes to Kamala Harris's judgment. Tim Walz is ultimately going to be the vice president. Kamala Harris is in great health. I'm sure she's going to be president if she wins for 4 or maybe even 8 years. Why did Kamala Harris choose a person who has lied about their military service? I think that is a serious lapse in judgment. And I don't want to hear from a campaign spokesperson of Kamala Harris. I want to hear Kamala Harris herself address what I just said.
You know,
I'm going to fast forward here towards the end. He just continues ripping her, but let's take a listen here.
Really honors our veterans.
He
honors me for my service. Donald Trump didn't lie about serving in the military. He didn't say that he went to Vietnam when he didn't. This is the problem. I don't criticize anybody, whether they served our country or not. I think it's honorable to serve, but obviously a lot of people have reasons for not serving. I criticize somebody for embellishing their record, for lying, saying, I went to war. Dana, do you think that it's a problem that he said, I went to war, but he didn't actually? That seems to be a problem to me.
well, they've corrected that. Let's move on
They've
to.
corrected it by admitting that he
Let's
lied.
move on to another important issue to voters.
There you go. So she had to move on. She had to move on to abortion once she realized she lost. He just said, look, I'm not criticizing his service. I'm not criticizing anything. What I'm saying is that he was dishonest, and he said that he went to war, and he did not, in fact, go to war. Here's Senator J.D. Vance destroying John Carl as he tries to claim Kamala Harris was never the border czar. John Carl actually tried this. He tried to say that Kamala Harris was never the border czar.
Well, John, we have to start with the fact that we have a wide open southern border because our border czar actually set a lot of open border policies. They suspended.
she's not actually. She wasn't the border czar.
Oh, that was what the media called her.
I know,
She
but-
assumed the title. She had control over a lot of our border policy at a time
What was the
when
root
they were
causes of the
suspending.
migration
Let me
from
finish,
South?
John. The time they were suspending deportations,
Yeah.
they stopped Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, and they reinstituted catch and release. They basically threw open the gates of our country, and now we have a ton of fentanyl, a ton of people
But
suffering.
how are you going to get 10
and
to
a ton of
15 to 20
Americans.
million people
Well,
out
the
of
first
country?
thing you have to do is to stop the bleeding, stop the open border, get Kamala Harris out of there, and actually re-implement the Remain in Mexico policy, rebuild or finish Donald Trump's border wall. And you do that and you stop the bleeding. Now, you're right. Once you do that, once you stop Kamala Harris's open border policies, you've got to do something with the people who are already here. And I think that you take a sequential approach to it. You are going to have to deport some people. If you're not willing to deport a lot of people, you're not willing to have a border when there are 20 million illegal aliens in our
But
country.
10 to 15 million people, this is like, I mean.
Well, John, I think it's the wrong attitude to take of it. Okay,
I
so
mean,
there,
you go
so there,
knock
so
on
there,
doors and ask people for their
well,
papers.
again, but
what do
I
you do?
let me. I think this is the wrong attitude towards it, right? There's 20 million people here illegally. You start with what's achievable. You do that, and then you go on to what's achievable from there. I think that if you deport a lot of violent criminals, and frankly, if you make it harder to hire illegal labor, which undercuts the wages of American workers, I think you go a lot of the way to solving the illegal immigration problem. But look, President Trump is absolutely right. You cannot have a border unless you're willing to deport some people. I think it's interesting that people focus on, well, how do you deport 18 million people? Let's start with 1 million. That's where Kamala Harris has failed, and then we can go.
There you go. So, and I love how John Carl, he tries to say that Kamala Harris was never the border czar. Here it is, ABC's John Carl in 2023. Let's take a listen to this clip. I'm going to play him back to back, 2023, just 1 year ago, and then the clip just now from 2024. Let's take a listen.
It was back in 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, that the president put Vice President Kamala Harris in playing a critical role in terms of trying to stop the flow of migrants across the border. I mean, she was more than 2 years ago. She got this responsibility.
No, she's not actually. She wasn't the border zone.
It was back in two.
She's not actually the border czar. She's not actually the border czar. John, you said she was a year ago, about a year ago. And this one is just kind of funny. He's a total brat, and that's what I really like about JD Vance. He's just savage. This is funny. Let's take a look.
And I'm doing this because I think that me being vice president will help improve people's lives. So I accept their attacks, but I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about, just take a couple of days ago, Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife. And I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is two people, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who aren't comfortable in their own skin because they aren't comfortable with their policy positions for the American people. And so they're name calling instead of actually telling the American people how they're going to make their lives better. I think that's weird, Dana, but look, they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying
I think it's weird that he bro hugged his wife. That was JD Vance. Man, that was incredible. The just master class on dealing with the hostile media. I wanted to play those for you because I think it's important. He was also on CBS Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan, but that interview, he kept it really policy-based, she kept it policy-based, but he crushed it there too. And I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong. You guys know that I was all for Vivek Ramaswamy being the VP pick. I thought he was way more MAGA. I was not enamored with JD Vance at first. I was not impressed by JD Vance, especially after that convention speech during that first week. But he got off to a rough start, but he has really been cooking ever since, and he's really just taken off. So for the next 80 plus days until the election, here's what needs to happen. Donald Trump, you need to get out there on Truth Social, on Twitter. He's back on Twitter. He's back on X. And you need to let him rant on Twitter, on Truth Social, Donald Trump, and you need to let him have these rallies. Let JD Vance handle everything else. He can clearly handle himself. And those are the things that need to happen for the next 80 plus days until the election. Make America weird again. If that guy's weird, I think we all should be weird, right? JD Vance really going after it. So I do want to talk about Trump making his triumph return to X. He's got some fire posts. He was on an interview last night with Elon Musk. They broke the internet. Quite literally, millions of people were tuning in to this interview, and the internet crashed. So we're going to chat about that, and also the Secret Service agent. I want to get to this. The Secret Service is actually apologizing now after this has come out, where we see on tape, on security footage, Secret Service agents breaking into a Massachusetts salon by picking the lock and covering up the security camera there with duct tape. And I mean, clearly they knew they were breaking the law. They knew it was wrong. They wouldn't have used the duct tape to cover the security camera if they didn't think it was wrong. This Secret Service agent, who is she? Who is she? She let the Kamala rally attendees use the bathroom. They used the bathroom and they broke into the salon. It's very bizarre. And look, I've been researching, help me out. Is there legal documentation that allows for Secret Service agents to completely disregard property rights, private property rights, and use the restroom conveniently wherever they're at? And does it also say, is there anything out there that says they're exempt from prosecution? No, I don't think so. This is breaking the law. So we're gonna get to that story here on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. I'll be right back. Yeah, this is really weird. The Secret Service, this DEI agent, covering up the security camera with a piece of duct tape. Here it is. I'm just going to show you this. Let's see here. Could probably make that a little bigger. But we're going to get to this because it's from the Post Millennial. They've got the story. Alicia Powers, the owner of the salon, recounted how Secret Service agents entered her building without prior notice by picking the lock to her front door and taping over security cameras. The agents let the public use use the bathroom there for nearly 2 hours, and then they left the premises. And then they left the door unlocked after they were done. Quote, they had a bunch of people in and out of here a couple of times, or a couple of bomb sweeps. Again, totally understand what they had to do due to the nature of the situation, Powers explained to the Business Insider. And at that point, my team felt it was a little bit chaotic, and we just made the decision to close for Saturday. So the Secret Service, they covered up these cameras with duct tape. I think it's very weird. The incident was made public. The Secret Service reached out to Powers, and the agency's Boston office issued an apology. The spokesperson for the Secret Service told Fox News the U.S. Secret Service worked closely with our partners in business communities to carry out protective and investigative missions. The Secret Service has since communicated with the affected business owner. So I don't know if they were if there was some sort of security breach or what at this salon. They didn't get into it here with this story. But I don't know. This is kind of ghetto. If they were doing security sweeps, why would they use the bathroom? Why would they take candies? You can see them in the video take candies off the front desk there of the salon. The salon owner says, look, I understand that you have investigative missions and you got to carry this out. But did you really have to steal my candies and then put duct tape on my security camera? Kind of weird. So according to the business owner, they didn't have permission to use the establishment as they pleased, which is proven by the fact that they broke in and covered the camera with duct tape. Okay, so they did not have permission from this private business owner to use her establishment. Typically, when you have permission to do something, you don't pick locks and you don't have to hide it. Okay, so why do Secret Service agents think they can get away with these things normal Americans would be prosecuted for? I don't know. It's weird that they covered the camera, right? I mean, this is the photo of her covering the camera with a piece of duct tape. So it's very weird. I don't know what's going on here. But like I said, there's this little thing called the Third Amendment, and no soldier shall in a time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in a time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So, I mean, the Third Amendment, I mean, I just read that for you. There's a little thing called that. You can't just break into private property owners' establishments without permission. Now, I don't know what I'd imagine they were conducting sweeps, and that's what they said they were doing. The Secret Service. I don't know. It's weird. Go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. When we come back, I do want to talk a little bit about Trump being back on Twitter. I'm very excited about Trump being back on Twitter. Very excited. He's had some pretty fiery posts lately. We'll be back in just a minute. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Yes, Elon Musk and Donald Trump on X, they did a live stream that broke the internet. So Donald Trump made his return to X, and in the evening, he sat down for a live stream marathon. I mean, they were on for quite a while with Elon Musk. Now, you might have read the headlines. There were technical issues in the beginning. After that, they spoke for 2 hours, covering every topic you would want them to. There were 5 key points that stood out for me. And I think that if the campaign focuses on this over the next 80-ish days or so, they're gonna be okay. If the campaign focuses on these 5 key things that were discussed in the X live stream. So yes, there were technical issues. They broke the internet. So there were so many people watching that every time you search something on the internet has to take a minute and think, I guess. And the thing of it is, there were so many requests to watch this via the internet. They broke it. So they broke the internet. So that's one key thing. I also think that Trump needs to focus on the fact that Kamala Harris is the border czar, and how the left is trying to convince you, with the help of the media, right, that she was never the border czar. I think that he also needs to talk more about the assassination attempt. I think I've got somebody listening from Western Pennsylvania, where they're planning on going out to another Butler rally. Trump is planning another rally in Butler. I hope our state and the feds do a better job of protecting Donald Trump. They can't win, or they can't do any worse than they did the last time Trump was in Butler. Which brings me to this story. I am going to talk more about X. I've got some clips from the X live stream. And we'll get to Donald Trump's tweets as well. But I do want to share this. Now, I'm sharing a photo on the live stream of this Secret Service agent who used a piece of duct tape, to cover a security camera at a salon in Massachusetts right before a Kamala Harris event. So it's unclear why the Secret Service is so abysmal. It's the DEI. I don't know why they're so bad at protecting Donald Trump at the Butler rally. But DEI certainly is exaggerating their failures, right? Whether it was intentional or it was just pure negligence, DEI is bad. Especially when it comes to the Secret Service. So I've been looking everywhere. I don't know in what world this is okay, where Secret Service agents just totally disregard private property rights and then use the restroom conveniently. And I don't think it says anywhere in any kind of legal documents that the Secret Service agents are exempt from prosecution the moment they break the law. And this is exactly what we have here. So Secret Service agents broke into a Massachusetts salon by picking the lock. We know that they know that it was wrong because they covered the security camera with duct tape. So they picked the lock and then they took duct tape and covered the security camera at the salon. So people only do that kind of stuff when they know they're breaking the law. Okay, so according to the Post Millennial, Alicia Powers is the owner of the salon. She recounted how Secret Service agents entered her building without prior notice by picking the lock to the front door and taping over the security cameras. The agents let the public use the bathroom for nearly 2 hours and left the premises unlocked after they were done. Now, Alicia Powers, she explained to the Business Insider, she goes, there were a bunch of people in and out of here. There were a couple sweeps. They were doing like bomb sweeps. And again, I totally understand if that's what they have to do, you know, and if the nature of the situation requires them to sweep my building. But she goes, I mean, this is just so chaotic. I mean, what they're doing is going in and out. They were using my bathroom. They were letting the public use my bathroom, and footage shows that they took candies off the front desk. Okay, so it's just kind of weird. After the incident was made public, the Secret Service reached out to Alicia Powers, the owner of the salon in Massachusetts, and the agency's Boston office issued an apology, actually. So the Secret Service agency out of Boston, their Boston office, the spokesperson there told Fox News, the U.S. Secret Service works closely with our partners in the business community to carry out protective and investigative missions. The Secret Service has since communicated with the affected business owner to explain, I guess, why they were in there. Now, I don't know. The article doesn't get into why they were in there and what they had told the business owner, but the fact that they communicated to the affected business owner. Quote, we hold these relationships to the highest regard, and our personnel would not enter or instruct our partners to enter a business without the owner's permission. So they're claiming that they had the owner's permission and they went in there with the owner's permission, the Secret Service. I don't know about you, but if you cover a security camera with a piece of duct tape and pick a lock, I don't think you had permission. According to the business owner, they didn't have permission to use the establishment as they pleased, which is proven by the fact that they broke in. They broke in and they covered the camera with duct tape. It's ghetto. It's weird. Typically, when you have permission to do something, you don't pick locks, right? Or cover the security camera with duct tape. Why do Secret Service agents get away with things normal Americans would be prosecuted for? The fact that they covered the camera is extremely troubling. And in a serious country, they would be held accountable for this kind of thing. They stole candies off the woman's desk, for crying out loud. Clearly, they aren't holding, what was it they said in their statement? We hold these relationships in the highest regard. Stealing candies from the woman's desk? I don't know if that's really holding their relationship with the business community in a high regard, but no, we're not in a serious country because these people would be held accountable if we lived in a serious country. We no longer are living in serious times. And we don't need to, we're no longer living in serious times because clearly our Secret Service agents aren't competent. They nearly got Trump killed. This was before a Kamala Harris rally, I guess, or like some sort of event where they were conducting sweeps in this salon. But they covered the security camera with duct tape. There's a lot of questions. And I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to hear the answers. We're probably never going to hear answers about who Thomas Crooks is and why he got up on the roof that day. But these DEI agents, they're incredibly stupid. Do they not understand basic privacy laws like private property rights? There's a little thing called the Third Amendment. You would think that if you swear to the Constitution and take an oath to the Constitution, prior to taking the oath to protect it, the basic requirement would be that, you read it or read some of it, the third part or the Third Amendment, right? But these people were hired to the Secret Service based on insignificant birth traits. This is a woman who covers up the camera with the duct tape. She probably got on there because of the DEI program. But like I said, it doesn't matter if this was done in an innocent way. I don't know but they broke their oath. 100%. These people broke their oath to the Constitution. These people need to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. The business owner claims that she did not give them permission to use the establishment as they pleased, to use the establishment to let people use the bathroom, to take candy off the front desk. I mean, this is just weird. So I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about Donald Trump on X. I've got 5 key takeaways regarding the interview last night. It was 2 hours long. There's some key takeaways that I want the campaign to focus on, and they mentioned them in this 2-hour long interview that Donald Trump did with Elon Musk. We'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. If you're watching, go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to come back. Vote Harris 2024. Show your love for America. Show your love for freedom. Harris 2024. Oh boy. Oh boy. Vote freedom. Kamala, she is a scam. Vote Harris. Look, I want to talk about this. So, Freedom Harris. Clearly, this woman is not for freedom because she was selected. Okay, typically in countries where leaders are selected, and she didn't go through a primary process, a democratic process where she was selected by voters or where she was elected by voters. She was selected by a small group of people in a smoke-filled room, very Chicago politics-esque. So, show your love for freedom. If anything, you would want to vote for Donald Trump to show your love for freedom, just for the mere fact that these people think they can spit in your face and say, "Oh, you're stupid. You didn't vote for this person, but we're going to make her the Democratic nominee anyway." If you really cared about freedom, you wouldn't vote for Kamala Harris for the sole fact that she was installed as the Democratic nominee and received no votes. So if you're really for freedom, which the epitome of freedom is the ability to vote and elect your leaders rather than have them installed without your say-so, you would be voting for Trump 2024. If you were really about freedom, just for the mere fact, just for the sole fact, or the sole reason being, Kamala Harris is not for freedom. She was selected. She was not elected. We're going to be back talking a little bit about Donald Trump. Stay tuned. He was on X last night, and the liberals were real mad about him and Elon Musk talking for 2 hours. So we'll be right back. Wowza. We've got so much to talk about. Last night, Donald Trump was on with Elon Musk. They had a 2-hour-long interview. A lot of people are criticizing it. They're saying it's boring. But overall, I think it was very informative. I think that that's exactly what it needed to be. It needed to be boring. It needed to be informative. People are saying, oh, there were too many technical issues. Everybody was going to find something about this interview that was going to, not fit to their liking, right? Somebody was going to say something about it. The technical issues were in the beginning, and really it just is a testament to how popular Donald Trump is. They actually broke the internet. They were having issues with people searching up the interview, and too many. I mean, millions of people were trying to watch this thing. So there were some technical issues, but they got around it, and it turned out to be a great sit down. The way Trump here segues from his assassination attempt into the Harris Biden border crisis is absolutely brilliant. I think we need to talk more about the border, and we need to talk about the assassination attempt way more. So here's some key points in the interview. I'm going to play them, 5 of them here. So stick around. This is Donald Trump talking about the border, and he segues out of the assassination attempt to talk about how Kamala Harris is the border czar, and the left is going to try to gaslight you into thinking that she was not placed in charge of that, or placed in that role. So let's take a listen.
Like what I find admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual, or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And so
thank you very much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up, and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me, and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, sir, you were hit more than the ear. I said, nope. I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up. And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people, and you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think. And I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them know that. And they went wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I got up because they didn't know, was I alive? You really couldn't tell. When I stood up, before the the fist in the air, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty amazing. It was a terrible thing, but it was
incredible.
So I think he needs to talk more about the assassination attempt. And here he is talking about the illegal immigration.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week, we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous chart, but that was the lowest point ever recorded. It was a really, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. They said it's the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where if people.
So he needs to talk more about the assassination attempt. He also needs to talk more. He does this beautiful segue into the border and how Kamala Harris is the border czar, and how under his administration they had the best numbers on illegal immigration. He does a beautiful job with that. But there's another one I want to play here for us. This is about Kamala Harris stealing his campaign promise, no tax on tips. Let's take a listen.
And there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. You know, they had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, you know, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard.
Mm-hmm. And then there's this, of course, they're going to go after, and I think that, so they need to point out that the IRS agents, they're not for the little guy. Okay, they're not for you at all. She was the one who broke that tie-breaking vote in the Senate. Kamala Harris did. So without Kamala Harris, there would be no Inflation Reduction Act, which subsequently created a 20% spike in prices. They also talk about how Tim Walz is a weirdo, and I think that they need to prove that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they are not middle America. They are not. They are not. They're not like you and me. Take a listen to this, and then we're going to cut to break.
Running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay, now that's all I have to hear. Tampons in boys' bathrooms. And that means she believes in that too. I mean, she picked this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as the president, I don't think our country can survive.
So there you go. Tim Walz. I think that they need to talk more about how Tim Walz puts tampons in boys' bathrooms. He's not this folksy middle American dad. I don't care how many camouflage hats you put on him and how many flannels you put on him. Most of America is going to say that it's weird that Walz thinks that boys can have periods. And it's weird that he puts tampons in school bathrooms for little boys. Most Americans are going to say that. Also, look, Kamala, you're the one who did this tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act. You don't care about middle America. You don't care about the tipped earners, these average earners, because you signed the Inflation Reduction Act. You broke that vote in the Senate. They need to talk more about that. Those are some key points from the interview. We're going to wrap that up. The interview with Elon Musk and Donald Trump on X last night. It went for 2 hours. Yes, there were some technical difficulties, but they worked that out. And overall, it was a very informative interview. So I'll be right back breaking that down for you on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9.
Cities 92.9 Sports. If I told you the Yankees played the White Sox last night and the score was 12-2, you would probably say the Sox were the Chicago that pumped the Yanks 12-2. As Kansas City's winning career best ball for Gordon Pollard, the Sox is their first win under interim manager Grady Sizemore. Cubs lost to Cleveland in a slugfest 98 as the Guard Indians' Josh Naylor singled home the winning run, and the Cardinals lost to the Reds 6-1 to make this the first time this season that the Sox were the only team to lose out of the three. I'm Chris Murphy, Cities 92.9 Sports.
Woohoo! Good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. And wow, I'm going to play a little bit of this for you. This is Elon Musk describing how he used to be an Obama supporter. Now he's a Donald Trump supporter, and here's why.
My record, I've actually been, I'm not like, so they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and, solar and batteries helping the environment. And I actually, I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president. And, so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed-in-the-wool long-term Republican. I call myself, historically a moderate Democrat. But now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country. I think a lot of people thought, the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not. And obviously, we're just going to see
No, they are not a moderate administration, the Biden-Harris administration, and we definitely know they are going to be even more radical with a Tim Walz, Kamala Harris ticket. So let's take a listen to this. This is your average liberal. This is your Biden supporter. This is the reaction from the left to Elon Musk and Donald Trump sitting down for an informative interview. Let's take a listen to this. Here we go.
Money of that could be donated to worthwhile causes, like the Biden-Harris campaign.
He loses his mind over Elon Musk. And take one more listen here from the top. He goes, I hate you.
Know how much money he has donated to Trump? $10 trillion. He doesn't need that money. He's already a trillionaire. There's trillionaires supporting other trillionaires. You know how much money of that could be donated to worthwhile causes? Like the Biden-Harris campaign?
Okay, this is what happens when you don't spank your children. So that guy, he was losing his marbles over Donald Trump and Elon Musk sitting down and having an interview. He goes, I hate Elon Musk. You know how much money that guy has. It completely loses his mind over this interview that was to take place. And, it was just, these people aren't serious people. Kieran Jean-Pierre was asked by a reporter, actually, hey, what can we do to stop misinformation, disinformation on X ahead of Donald Trump and Elon Musk sitting down to have an interview with each other? And Kieran Jean-Pierre, she gave her answer, and she said, our administration, Biden, he really believes in combating disinformation and misinformation. Quite literally, we had a reporter out there who was trying to call this interview misinformation and disinformation prior to it even dropping, which brings me to the close of the show today. Look, folks, just remember one thing. Kamala Harris She was selected and she's not elected. She has received no votes. And if you're for freedom, you'd vote for the guy that was elected by people in a primary. All right, you guys have a blessed day. We'll do it all over again tomorrow.